Hello, welcome to Sky Sweaty Record Review, episode 156, the only first listen new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after leaving the gym. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is not fair. I'm going to be taking a band and using it as an example. The name of the band is Mosa Wild, the name of the EP is Talking in Circles, and I want to use this one short album and use it to describe millennial music, or millennial indie pop. Or Millendie-Pop? I don't know. That's a clumsy portmanteau. I say it's not fair because, I could have done this with just about not any group, but many other groups that I've listened to. Cage the Elephant, Hippocampus, A lot of music fits into this genre. And what I'm trying to do is try and figure out, is there some kind of commonality or some kind of general sound, some way we can break down and understand rock and roll groups or indie pop groups who are between the ages of 20 and 35. I think it's possible, and I'm going to do that with this album. Just off the top, at the end I'll go in and tell you more about why this album is exceptional. It's not forgettable, it's not bad. In the 90s, I really liked this group called Treble Charger, and you could do this with the 90s with them. I mean, they were just a nobody group that no one's ever heard of, but I loved them. But you could easily just sort of say, this is what a 90s group is. My dog has returned. He always goes on patrol. He hears any sound outside, he goes and checks it out. But pay attention to me, would you? Not him. I'm gonna squish his head. Toby, watch out. Okay, so millennial music, Millendie-Pop. The thing that I'm noticing is that this music that I'm trying to figure out some kind of classification system for is it is all on the indie pop spectrum. I think you could put, at one super pop end of the spectrum, Imagine Dragons. And I know a lot of people hate Imagine Dragons. I don't. I don't hate them. I don't love them. I don't hate them. I think they're the extreme of everything I'm going to be saying here. So here's some general themes, and then I'll apply them directly to this band, okay? So all on the indie pop spectrum. How indie they are, I think, depends on how popular they end up being. Lots of 80s influence. And primarily that's because the unified thing is a sort of lack of care about what is electronic and what is acoustic. On this album, there's a drummer. There's clearly a drummer. There's one song where he's really quite excellent, a track called Tides. Just great drums and great rhythms. But for most of the album, it's a drum machine. I don't know. What's he doing? Maybe he plays some other instruments. I don't know what it is. And there's the first song is another great example of this mixing. It starts off with this super keyboard and it sounds very 80s, and then a really earnest guitar comes in. So this kind of lack of lines in between that, I think, is a fairly new thing. And I think that's partly the 80s influence is a result of the technology getting better. So in the 80s, when this happened, when, all of a sudden, rock and rollers who only played guitars started playing keyboards more, or drum machines, whatever, it was this sort of new and interesting thing, and it was a reaction to the technology, but it was still very exclusive. Now, I think the natural production of music that infuses so much acoustic, so much electric, so much electronic is a general 80s sound. This does not sound retro. I don't think they're trying to do some kind of Stranger Things, New Coke madness. I think it's a natural result. And I think that is a trait of this millennial indie pop music. Millendie-Pop? Can you put in the comments if Millendie-Pop is stupid? No. It is stupid. Can you put in Millendie-Pop if you think it's so stupid I shouldn't use it anymore? Speaking of earnestness, that's another trait that I've noticed with a lot of these bands, and not much irony, not much darkness, earnestness, optimism, not always optimism, but bright vocals, crisp vocals. This guy, whoever it is that's singing on this band, is very crisp. His words are clear. He doesn't seem like somebody who thinks that everything is, BS and he doesn't care about anything. That brightness and earnestness I hear all the time. And there's so many albums that I don't review that are perfectly good. This album I almost didn't review. I could have just skipped right over it, despite the fact it's very good, because it feels like it fits into this general Millendie-Pop. I'm starting to like it now. See, that's the problem. If I like it, okay, we'll see. If I name this, if the icon, the avatar for the show says Millendie-Pop, I decided I like it. Usually the lyrics are good, but not always memorable. Like, it's not really clear if they're singing anything. And this right here, you know, I'm being general about this genre, about the state of indie pop right now, but this is also specific to this band. I mean, as an example, there's one song that's like, you know, this is a fire, something like that, help me be strong. But like, that's not nothing, okay? That's not, oh, it's not funny that you took all my money, okay? But at the same time, it's hard to figure out exactly what it is. In general, I would say that there's a tendency towards sensitivity, but not sadness. So it's not sort of like when I was growing up, where you got the feeling that all the people who were struggling with depression put on a guitar and just sang their blues, you know? Sang their blues through kind of bar chords and, you know, pretending to be indifferent towards things. Here, there's a sensitivity, but it doesn't feel sad. It just feels like the people who are singing are not, you know, trying to just, you know, ba 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 ba, you know, but they're trying to connect to an emotion. But again, kind of like the lyrics, there's a genericness to it. There also, I think, is kind of a tendency towards a more optimistic worldview. I think the fact that there's not a lot of this that seems to be singing about current events is interesting. Sort of like post-national, post-gender, post-race. I think I saw a picture that this band is multiracial. Maybe it was actually a different band. I'm not even sure. Doesn't really matter. I thought I read this band might be from England, but they might be from Brooklyn. I couldn't tell. This sort of sense that everything is global, that these differences, which would have meant so much to me. I mean, you can't even imagine what it was like. I mean, any diversity, any biracial, anything, up until, you know, a decade ago, was a huge deal. It's like the selling point of everything. And now it's just sort of like, oh yeah. And anyways, I think that's a part of it. And I would say the biggest thing, that's probably the hardest thing for old folks like me, older folks, Generation Xers, you know, is this tendency towards the anthemic. At a certain point, multiple times on this EP, like a bunch of people sing, or they sing something. And I don't know if it's like Arctic Monkeys thing, or Arcade Fire. I don't know if it's an Arcade Fire thing or something where like you just want to all be together and YOLOing and not FOMOing and sitting there and singing this song. And this anthemic nature, and I'll play you a little bit of example of that later on this album, for me, makes me feel like when it's bad, it's a Subaru commercial. Okay, you know, like, we all love to drive. Oh, okay, something like that. I've been singing a lot on this show lately. Do you like it? Put it in the comments. Do you like it when I squish Toby's head? Put that in the comments. Ow. So this anthemic quality, like when it's bad, it could be on a Subaru commercial. But when it's good, it's just one step away from a Subaru commercial. It's like right on that line. And I think, one thing I noticed with my students, you know, who are obviously younger than me, I had to explain to them what the word sellout means. Like, they don't actually know what it means. There's no bad connotation to making money, to being a sellout. So I think there's something about like doing something so crassly, what appears to me so crassly commercial, as having a song like, oh, but it doesn't bother them. And I'm learning to accept it and have it not bother me as much. So I'm going to play you the first track on the album. And the thing is, right, if you like this band and you're watching me talk about this, you're probably tearing your hair out because you're like, Sky, why are you just like tearing this band apart? I'm not. I actually like this. I listened to it, you know, it's a short album, so I listened to it 2.5 times. I enjoyed it more the second time and the third time. This is good music. I'm just trying to see if I can develop some kind of, if I can do my professory job and write a little paper here for you for what are the characteristics of this zeitgeist. So let's listen a little bit to the opening song, Honey. So you hear that keyboard right off the bat, right? So did you hear that? How it went from like do 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 into this guitar? It's no big deal. And you hear his voice, really nice and crisp. He has personality. I would say that he doesn't have a ton of personality, but he has more personality than if I were to just describe a general Millendie-Pop band, what it would sound like. So anyways, we'll go back to this. And you can hear the sensitivity in his voice. And again, there's a drum machine. And they have a drummer, but there's a drum machine. And I need to trim my beard. I'm like Grizzly Adams. Okay. You know, I mean, I look like some other hipper reference than Grizzly Adams. Grizzly Adams was a TV show about a guy with a beard. It was off the air by the time I was like 3, so I don't, you know. But there was an episode once where a guy drank some water from a stream and he went blind, and ever since then I've been terrified of streams. Okay, so what does this have? This has the keyboards, has the guitar, has the moving in, has that earnestness. When I said about the good lyrics, you know, like, he sings about his heart being evergreen here, and then on the next song, he sings about love not being evergreen. So it's kind of an interesting idea. It's more than nothing. I get my cowlick out of the way. Okay, 1 second. So we'll get to the kind of anthemic part here at the end. All right, you know that my computer's not working. Right. So you have the chorus of vocals. You know, all these layers coming in. And like all this kind of build up and this kind of dynamic that goes like that. That's not the best example of the kind of anthemic nature. You hear that in another song. Which is it? I think the song Tides is more like that. So, I don't know. I'm asking a lot of comments in the section, considering the fact that I never know who's watching or if they care. And they rarely get this far in the episode anyways. So I don't know. But if you're a fan of Mosa Wild, I also want to say I'm not being entirely fair. There are some things about this record that are really special. The song Fault Line is a complete outlier. It seems to be mostly about like struggling with heroin usage, but at the same time it's a little bit more general than that. He's not just like, it's not under the bridge, you know, it's pretty well done. Has kind of like a Phil Collins sound. Like if Phil Collins wasn't lame. Again, the song Tides has nice drumming and rhythms. There are a lot of nice exceptions. My suggestion is listen to the song Honey, the first track. See what you think. If you like it, if you like this band, listen to it. And let me know, what other traits am I missing of this Millendie-Pop thing, this millennial indie pop? Because it is the majority of music that I am experiencing right now. Okay, so I don't know if it's the algorithm or whatever it is, but most of what I'm hearing fits somewhere within this. So, there you go. Until next time, where I'll probably review something wildly different, and hopefully not come up with some kind of weird philosophy, I will say, there's the camera. Hey, no edits in this episode.